Hello, everybody. It's Donna Cravata, and we are back again for another Real 50 Over 50 interview. And this week we have Dr. Cynthia Edwards Hawver with us. And Dr. Cynthia is a licensed psychologist, certified coach, host of the Mama Shrink podcast, and she's a writer, speaker, and a single mom. I always love to talk to single moms. With 25 years of experience helping hundreds of women live their best lives, Cynthia turned 50, closed down her successful practice, and now works with midlife moms who are experiencing burnout. Welcome, Cynthia.
Thank you, Donna. Nice to be here.
Yeah, and since you're 52, you did a lot in a 2-year period.
I have been through a lot in the 2 years. Yes. A lot more than I bargained for. I'll say that.
So, do you want to talk about what happened when you turned 50 that led you to this
Yes.
path of change and
Yeah. So when I turned 50, it was during COVID. And my mom had passed away at the age of 70. And it
Mhm.
was sudden. It was during COVID. And it kind of woke me up. I realized that my mom passing away at such a young age had me start thinking, is this, if I have 20 years left, am I living the life that I truly intended to live for myself? And I love being a psychologist. I love doing the one-on-one work. I love teaching about psychology, doing all the things, but I realized I was really putting a lot of my focus into managing people and running an office and a private practice, and got to the point where I just realized I wasn't enjoying it. And after going through the experience of losing my mom and then my stepfather a few months later, and then over the last few months, realizing there was some things in my marriage of 31 years and that has ended, it really has put a lot in perspective of you come to these crossroads in life, especially I think when you turn 50, where you start to look at you have a limited time left, and when you're in your 40s, you think about it a little bit, but when you turn
Mhm.
50, I think it becomes very, very in front of your face and trying to say, if I have this time, what do I want to be doing with it? So I took this very successful practice I had built from the ground up all by myself and closed it down. And recently I just sold the building, switched to all virtual so I can be home with my kids who are 10 and 12. I started the parenting journey later in life. So my first son, they're both adopted from birth. My first son came when I was 40 and my second when I was 42. And so now, I'm 52 with a 10 and a 12-year-old, and it's a little different raising kids when you're older, but I think I have the wisdom, which I appreciate, sometimes not the energy.
Mhm.
But I try to always take everything that has happened to me in my life and help other people. And when I realized, looking back, burnout started to hit me probably way sooner than I even knew I was in burnout. And that's the problem I think women have. And I think the term gets thrown around very superficially. I'm burnt out. I've heard 21-year-old YouTubers say, I'm burnt out. And I'm like, they don't even know what burnout is.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So,
it's true because you don't realize it, so you could actually smell your hair on fire.
yes, yes. So I started thinking about this three-stage model of burnout, kind of similar to physical burns on our skin. So,
Mhm.
you're in stage, first degree burnout. You're kind of knowing I'm not really taking the best care of myself. I'm feeling depleted. Maybe your sleep's off. Maybe you're feeling more anxious. Some things are happening. But normally people just keep pushing on, and then you get into second degree burnout. There's more signs. Maybe you have a chronic illness. I ended up having Lyme disease and didn't get properly diagnosed, and was pushing through probably in burnout and also having a chronic illness and
Mhm.
parenting, and still didn't pay attention.
Yeah.
Then I
And
started to have
grief,
more health issues
and
and
grief.
grief
You was
and grief.
grief. Yeah.
Yes,
And I mean,
yes.
for your mom and your stepdad, and you probably knew on the inside before it got to your brain that your marriage was coming to a close too.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
you were already grieving that before you knew it.
Yeah. Yeah, and not even knowing, couldn't even put that in the mix
Mhm.
because I was so in the fire with the
Yeah.
burn that
Yeah.
it was like, no, this can't happen too. That's
Yeah.
not, and so as I'm starting to heal, which I
Mhm.
think is so people want to heal fast. They want it to be super quick. I remember when my marriage ended in the beginning of November, I had the holidays coming up and I thought, there's no way I'm going to get through this. And I just have to keep going. And I did. But, in my mind, I was like, I'll be back running my business in 2 months, and now fast forward, it's now June. And I'm like, okay, maybe now I'm starting to feel ready. And I think
Mhm.
that's the message I want women to know is we don't want to take the time to heal, but if we don't, we are just going to go backwards all over again.
Yeah.
And we're never going to find ourselves because
No.
we just keep pushing.
Yeah. 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 And from you are now the 63rd interview that I've done
Wow.
as part of this series, and it's a recurring theme that women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond have the space for the first time, often the first time in their life, to ask themselves, what do I actually want? And that's when all of this stuff that has been tamped down by the to-do list just comes bubbling up to the surface. And
Yes.
it's like it's a big list of what you want.
Yes. Yeah, and if you couple that with having, okay, what if I have, 20, 30, 40 years to do it, and I think it's in some ways sad that we find all this wisdom when we're 50 and then we have this limited time to kind of figure out, okay, now what do we do with all of
Mhm.
this? But be kind to ourselves in the process and enjoy it because one of the things I'm learning, like even this morning, I was thinking, I'm still dealing, coming out of my own thing, like, what I'm going to do this interview and am I ready? And I thought to myself, I am ready because it's a process. And I think we're never going to be perfect. And I really believe for burnout, especially perfection is at the core of it. Like we always think, well, everything has to be just right before I can go on to this next thing. And that's usually never going to happen.
No, and the thing that matters most when there's somebody on the other side of these conversations that needs to hear something, what they really attach to is your vulnerability and your willingness to share.
Yeah.
And we all have something going on.
Yeah.
We do not get away scot-free. We just don't.
Yes.
And and we have to still show up and live and work and raise our kids and be a productive part of society while this is
Yes.
all playing in the background. So y- you know every as long as you're moving in the right direction, every day is a work in
Yes.
progress.
Yes. Yes, yes, and I think that's such a good message to give to women because I don't think we talk a lot about that. I think we, especially when we're showing up on social media or doing all this stuff, it seems like everyone's got it all put together, but they don't know sometimes the behind the scenes and that everyone is growing and healing and going through their own thing. And the more women can support each other and talk about that, I think that
Mhm.
is such a gift because I've healed a lot just by listening to other people who have gone through the same thing or people saying to me, I've been there, it'll get better, it'll be okay. Like that's so important to have that hope because without hope, we don't have anything.
It also raises the bar for empathy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's so much more empathy needed in professional circles, whether it be entrepreneurial or a business, a corporation. We all need to show up with more empathy for each other,
Yes.
for ourselves.
Yes.
And by
Yes.
sharing these stories, I think it opens the door for that to happen.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, what do you want to share?
Well, I mean, I think what I really want women to understand about burnout, is when you're, and I think one of the things that came up when I was doing the panel interview with you is that you sometimes don't know that you're feel that you're in burnout until you step away from burnout, right? And
Mhm.
so that can catch you off guard because your sympathetic nervous system is just in overdrive. And then when
Yeah.
we try to heal, that feels very uncomfortable too. So we take a step back, everything starts to go, whoa, what is happening here? Why am I feeling this way? Like, do I want to actually look at that? Because another piece with burnout is the guilt, that women feel of, am I allowed to take time to heal? Am I allowed to do this for myself? Can I do this without, judgment from other people? When you go through a very challenging situation in your life, you find out who your friends are and who your friends are not. Like,
Mm.
and I have done, like, this last 8 months has truly shown me, like, wow, like I joke to my kids sometimes. I'm like, I don't have
Mhm.
any friends left, because I've done a lot of like soul searching and realizing
Mhm.
like I've really got to rebuild some good female friendships. And I think part of healing through burnout is developing good female friendships. I think it's so
Mhm.
important. I think we don't talk enough about it. We need them, and it goes along with the empathy of the
Mhm.
healing piece. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's starting with good therapy to feel like, okay, how do I get rid of toxic people? So one thing that I have been very proud of myself for is that I really worked hard to set boundaries in my life, and it has been very challenging, but I feel proud to now get to a place where I don't have toxic people in my life anymore. Like, and that's huge. Like, cuz most people have and I will remove myself if I sense it. So even if I'm at one of my kids' sports games, I will sit alone and just be okay with being alone and not engage in the toxicity.
Yeah.
It's bad, and it's
Well,
so
it's not bad, it's excellent because
yeah,
once you pull yourself out of that pool, um, there's no going back into it because if you go back
will
into
not.
it,
Yes,
that's on you, you know?
yes,
You need to own responsibility for that. Somebody didn't pull you in there, you jumped.
yes, yes, and there's grief in that. There's a
Yes.
lot of grief in healing from burnout because there's lost relationships. It could be with your parent. It could be with best friends. It could be with, spouses. All of it. It's really realizing, whoo, I did a lot to get to where I am. And there's sadness when you lose people, but on the receiving end, every time you say goodbye to one of those toxic people, you open the door for a new beautiful relationship to come in.
I'm gonna add to that a little bit. I don't think it opens the door for one, I think it opens the door for more
Yeah, I agree.
because you have just made, like, you took a stand for yourself, and you're like, "I don't want that." So,
Yes.
I mean, in my, um, cockeyed version of math, one toxic person saying goodbye to one toxic person welcomes in 10 non-toxic people.
I like it. I
And that's
like
how
it.
you build a community that will support you and love you and cheer you on, and that
Yes.
just changes everything because now it's no longer just about you. You've got this whole crowd of people that like,
Yes.
you're in the good fight with them, you know?
Yes. Yeah, and I think, to be a psychologist and to help other people, I wanna be a good role model. Like, to me,
Mhm,
one of the most important things has been integrity. So, I don't
mhm,
wanna be someone, who is putting myself out there to help other people, but behind the scenes, I'm not walking the walk. And I
yeah,
do see a lot of therapists out there doing that, and I think it's a disservice. We have to be
mhm,
honest and truthful and, live what we speak.
yeah, and it's okay that it's hard. It's okay
Yes.
that, you're in flux, um,
Yes.
but you have to feel good about how you're living your life. And,
Yes.
I think once you see that, and once you recognize the things that are taking away from your happiness and your well-being, it's really hard to allow that back in, you know?
It is.
And it's hard to create those boundaries
Mhm.
because, they're tested all the time. and you don't
Yes.
have the fortitude yet for them to be standing on their own, you know? You're kind of like
Yes,
holding each other up.
yes,
So it's a
yes.
tentative period.
And I think sometimes what, I find for myself, and I see it in a lot of my clients I work with too, is the self-sabotage. So it's like
Mm,
you get so used to having toxic things in your life or people that you start to create, like I
yeah,
have to stop and go, wait a minute, I'm the one doing this right now.
yeah,
Like I'm
yeah.
creating this, and to not bring it in because it becomes comfortable. Like, because we are
Mhm,
humans and we are drawn to what's comfortable. And it
mhm.
might not be healthy, but it's comfortable. So I always tell people, just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean it's bad. It's just you have to get used to it. You're not completely there yet.
Now, could we spend a minute on that?
Yeah.
What are you doing now? Like, when you recognize that happening, are you creating anything, to support the healthy boundaries around that?
Yes. So I will, I have been like a perfect example is the last couple days I've been in this really funky mood, right? And I'm like, why is my mood so off? And I'm realizing, okay, reality of your new life is setting in and you
Mhm,
are uncomfortable with this. You don't know what to do without constant stress and chaos or something bad happening. So you are actually creating things to go
mhm.
wrong. Like I like literally like when I should be focusing on something, I'm like, oh, you know what? I think I need to repaint this other room before I could, record a new episode of my podcast. And it's like, how is that helpful? Or, you know, starting, make my kids are being completely fine. And I'm like, are you guys okay? Are you doing okay today? Like just nonsense where I stop and ask myself, okay, like you back up, be okay with
Mhm.
this. So it's really teaching myself to be
Mhm.
calm.
So, but now you have the awareness. So when that
Yes.
awareness comes, how do you stop from painting that room?
Well, there's where my little perfectionism kicks in. And I just say, do I need a painted room or do I need to try and help other women in their life? Like I'm starting to get to a point where I'm like, I have to put the priorities that I have in
Mhm,
place for
mm,
finishing my book proposal, getting my
mhm.
podcast back, recording new episodes. And I think my true passion is to help other women, and I know by, painting another room in my house, although that was
Nobody
healing for a
cares.
period of time, that's not going to move the needle
Nobody
forward for
cares.
anyone. Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
cares. You'll be the
Yes.
only person that cares,
Yes. And I don't even have people
and
coming
you
over
don't
to
even care that much, right?
yeah. So I don't know why I'm doing this.
But the awareness, can we talk about, like, from your from your view as a psychologist,
Mhm.
how important is that awareness piece?
It's so important. It's so important because when you live with the blindfold on, you are okay putting up with the chaos. You're okay tolerating the toxic relationship. You're okay putting the blinders on to, oh, you know what? That person let me down again. That's okay. Or, you know what? They said they were sorry. It'll never happen again. Let me just move on. And it's not until you really become aware that no, it's not okay. And people
Mhm,
have patterns of behavior. This is such an important thing that I have realized over my healing journey is once you see a pattern in a person, don't think it's going to change. It's
mhm.
it's not going to change. If they
Well,
do it once,
you
that's one
can't
thing.
change it for them, they have to
And
wanna
you
change
cannot
it for
change it.
themselves.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I think it's the Maya Angelou quote, like, "When people show you who they are, believe it the first
Mhm.
time." That is absolutely true, and
Yeah.
that's part of us really getting uncomfortable with, I don't want that person to be that way.
Mhm,
There's the grief, so there's grief with that awareness, because sometimes you don't want to be aware of what
mhm.
someone else is bringing to the table because it can mean a loss. It could mean an end to a relationship. It can mean I have to do something different and change, and
Mhm.
that feels really
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, and particularly if you're in a situation like you're in and have been over the last couple of years where there is already so much change. It's
Yes.
like you feel like you can't layer on one more thing,
Right.
but but you
Right.
have to
You
because,
have to.
it's insidious. And like, if you don't clean the slate, there's going to be that one little part that just keeps coming back and pulling you back in. And you've got to cut the ties and cut them all and just go through that hard part once.
Yeah. Yeah, and it really is when you think you've gotten, like I thought with my mom passing away and then taking care of my stepfather who, I didn't have the closest relationship with, so that was very challenging to like take care
Mhm.
of him until he passed. And then I thought, "Whew, okay." But then it was like, "Wait, wait, wait,"
Yeah.
and never would I think it was my marriage, and to really have to look at that and what that was gonna do to my children, but that if I didn't, they were never gonna see the mom who I want them to see.
Yeah.
I was losing me, and I didn't want them to see that version of me.
Yeah. And um, when you were kind of forced to go through being aware of all of the things around the relationship with your mom, with your stepfather, and then, just, the neural firings of, you know, how did that align in a 31-year relationship with somebody? There had to be some kind of common threads there,
Yes.
and then it's like, well, if I wouldn't accept this from my own mother,
Yes.
who would I accept this
Yes.
from?
Yes. Yes, 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 and then being a psychologist on top of it, then I
Yeah,
start tying
you
together,
actually
like, like, "Oh, well, I was able to do that because I put up with this my whole life, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
now it's all time." And it's hard to not psychobabble yourself to death too, like, sometimes it's, "Okay, what do I need to do and not get stuck up here?" Because I am very much I
mm,
want the answer, I wanna know why, and it's hard when you're not always going to know why.
yeah.
It's very hard to move on when you might not ever get that answer.
Alright, so there is a woman in the 50 over 50 community, her name is Kim DeYoung, and
Mhm.
what she does is she's a choice coach, and she helps people make choices. Um,
Mm.
and often when they're at, a difficult stage in life, or, dealing with change, or dealing with, 2 very diverse options, and, I think that she can help you kind of map this out
Mm.
in a way, and then what she does, she creates a map out of it. So the map could be either decisions you made in the past and how
Oh.
it impacted you and what you could do in the future to have a different outcome, or it
Mhm.
could be, like, at a crossroads. So do you go
Yes,
this way or this way? And she
yes.
can help you work through which direction you go. Um,
Interesting.
and it's a fascinating process. And but between your experience as a psychologist and her experience and what she does, and you being in this place of such transition, I think that she can really help you kind of build out this path forward that leaves all of that behind, even if the questions are unanswered.
Yeah.
She'll put dead ends on those.
Ah, nice. Yes.
So I'm gonna connect you. I'm gonna connect
Okay.
you. But I think you're in a, from where I'm sitting, it might not feel like this for you,
Yeah.
but I've gone through this already.
Yes.
I'm 10 years past this, and
Yes.
you're in a really exciting place.
Yeah, and it's so helpful, and again, like this community, right? Like I
Mhm.
think, and with Karen's community, like I feel like being just around other women who have been through these things, and like there's so much to learn from being in community with other women. There just is. And I think one of the things that got me to where I am at this place, which is something I hope to create, is a community of like-minded women who want to up level their game, right? Because I
Mhm.
think when women come together and say, "Hey, I've been there. This is hard. I get it. Let me help you." That that can be the difference for a woman in such a life-changing way. It's so important.
Yeah, I was, listening to an interview with Jane Fonda, and
Mm,
the question that the interviewer asked was, how important, now that you're at this age, how important are female friendships? And she said, female friendships are everything. She said, one thing that really stands out is that when you're in a relationship and have a friendship with a female, like two women together, they look each other in the eye.
Mm.
And she said, men sit by side by side and they
Oh,
watch
so
what's going
interesting.
by. And it was so true.
Yes, and this is me raising 2 little, boys to become men, and, and in some ways it's been a delightful process of
Mhm.
really, like, embracing my momhood and
Mm,
doing it, like, in a way that I wanted to so badly, and them getting to see a side of me that they might not have seen before, and teaching them what healthy relationship is and what's
yeah,
okay and what's not okay. Like, oh, it's such, because kids learn by what we do, not what we say. And
100%.
you have to model that, and that was really my breaking point, was to say, I don't want my kids to think this is okay.
Yeah. I
And
mean, I was in a very similar situation, and my son is now almost 22, and he has such a healthy respect for strong women.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
he knows when he needs an answer, he's gonna go seek out a strong woman. If I'm not around, he finds one.
I love it. I love it. Yes, and that's good. We need more men like that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I always said that if I didn't find the perfect man, I would build one, so I did.
You did build one. Yes, yes.
Right, so we have some really great comments. Um, well, Karen is popping in saying that we're two of her favorite people, so I love it.
Oh, Karen, you're
And
one of
she
my favorite,
also
and I
did,
saw Tanya, my
yes,
other.
Tanya. So Tanya, she put something here, change is the one thing that's a non-negotiable. Can we
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit?
Mhm. Yeah, I think it is. It's non-negotiable, right? If we're not changing, we're dying. If
Yeah.
we're it's growth, and growth can be hard. And I think just accepting that, and hearing it from other people, because sometimes when we're going through change, it can feel so alone. It can feel so lonely, like no one gets this. No one can understand what this is like, or why is this happening to me? And I think other people just saying, you will get through. Change is inevitable. It
Mhm.
will happen.
Mm,
It's going to be okay,
yeah.
and to think of life without change, it's hard when you're in it and so much is happening at one time. But if you think, if it never did, it would be pretty boring. It wouldn't be what drives us.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think we should want to always grow, right? And I think it's great to, and 50s, it's different, but I think it's such a growth period, and it's
Mm,
so beautiful to see other women, like, especially in this group, who are, like, really strong, amazing women doing amazing things over 50. It's great.
it blows me away every day. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a few more people to add, but I think we're up to about 115 women.
Yeah.
And the majority of them are over 60, not even over 50,
Love
but
it.
over 60, even quite a few over 70, and still changing, still
Yes.
morphing, still like being curious about what else is there? This can't be enough. There's got to be more. And not in a dissatisfied way, but in a way of like wonder, almost like a
Yes.
like wonder. And
Yeah.
it's so refreshing to
And
see.
I love it because, I saw my mom pretty much, tolerating, probably not being in the happiest relationships herself, and living, that was like her life. And I remember, even at a very young age, I always had this personality where I was like, I'm never going to do that. I'm never letting a man treat me like that. I'm going to have a career, and but on the flip side, I was raised by a great grandmother born in 1905 who was a spitfire, like, my grandmother was 85 hanging her laundry outside. No one could tell her otherwise. So I think you look at those role models in your life and you gravitate towards the ones that you say, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
You might not have gotten that as your mom, but maybe
Mhm,
you had it as a grandma. Maybe you have it in a group like this
mhm,
where you're like, wait a minute, that woman over there,
mhm,
she's 65 and writing a novel for the first time. Go,
mhm.
go. That's
Oh, we've got Tanya right here.
Yes, hi,
63
Tanya.
and learning every day. Love it. I love
Yes.
it. I love it. I love it. We have a woman in the group who wrote her first book at 72 and her second book
Mm,
at 75,
love
and
it.
it was never a plan.
Mm, yes. Yes. Yes.
She's actually gonna be on our next panel on storytelling, and, I mean, like, any day I'm having a bad day, I just go to the website, and I look through the
Oh, that's good.
faces, and I'm
Yes.
like, they're all doing this. I can do this too. I'm gonna get through this day.
Yeah.
And, it's just like a never-ending stream of motivation and inspiration,
Yeah.
and, it just makes me happy.
Yes, it's beautiful. Beautiful.
And, okay, so I can't believe we're at a half an hour already, but I wanna share a couple of things here. I wanna share that, um, Cynthia has a podcast,
Mhm.
and it's called the Mama Shrink Podcast.
Yes.
So go find that and, you know, listen to some episodes, maybe be a guest. Who knows? She
Yes.
is working on a book. Do you want to
Mhm.
talk a little bit about your book?
Yes, well, the book has morphed into, now it's really about finding yourself at 50 and really letting go of some of those old patterns and really kind of becoming what I wish my younger self had known.
Mm,
And we definitely with burnout and setting boundaries, but letting women know that you're not alone and how you can go about doing that and sharing some really hard things, to help other women know you can get through really challenging times. So,
okay.
it feels good and cathartic.
Okay. And where are you in the process? You're still writing?
I am in the middle of my book proposal, so hopefully I'm gonna have that done in a couple months
Mm,
and send that out to, this woman, Rochelle Fredson, who's amazing, and pitch it to different agencies and hopefully work on getting a book deal. Because I
good.
have to do it the old-fashioned hard way, first, because that's just how I'm wired, and we'll see what happens.
Well, who knows? Maybe you'll change. I have somebody for you to talk to.
Oh, okay.
Uh, I'm going to make a list of who I need to introduce you to.
Yeah.
All right, and then, on her website, she also has a Mama Burnout quiz, and I just went through it and asked some pretty good questions. So
Mm,
if you just go to, a bit.ly/ Mama Burnout quiz, you can get access to that and her website. So you can, find all the things there as well. And, it was also on our panel last month for mental wellness, and it was an amazing panel. So if you head on over to the Real 50 Over 50 website, there's a big image right up there with the mental wellness panel, and you can learn more about that there. But it was a really good panel. We had five incredible mental wellness professionals,
mhm.
and they really brought the goods. And with that said, I like to end these interviews with a wisdom bomb. So, how would you like to? What would you like to leave everybody with? Maybe something actionable or meaningful that they could take with them and apply to their own lives.
Yeah, I would say don't give up on yourself. Find you. And finding you might be the hardest thing you've ever done, but you can't find you until you clean out some of those cobwebs. And sometimes those cobwebs happen to be people that you've kept in your life for a very long time who are no longer serving you. And don't be afraid to reach out for help, for mental health help, because it's not easy. It's easy, it's just to say, well, don't have that relationship with your mother anymore. Or don't, it's like it's not that easy, but there's ways to do it that can feel okay for you. And the other person may not love it, but clean the cobwebs and live your life because we get one shot and you want to make it count and you can't keep living trying to change someone else. Like people don't change unless they really want to. And even then, it's hard. Even when you want change, it's hard.
Yeah, change and healing require guides in many instances.
Yes. Yes. And it's good to have a guide, and it's good to have a group of people around you to keep you on that path.
Hmm. Yeah, and a big part of that is healing,
Yeah,
and you really do need somebody to help guide you through that, because if you get lost in that middle place of healing, it's very hard to come out of that.
it is. It is. Yeah, and you don't want to stay stuck there.
Mm.
I mean, it's a process, and I think you need to give yourself the time to do it. It's not a quick fix, but it's easy to go down the wrong path with the wrong people and get stuck in a place that doesn't feel good. And it's not growth and change and promoting you,
Mhm.
finding you to go on to your next.
Yeah, another thing that I always like to talk about when I talk about mental health in any capacity is that, find somebody who's a professional.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
taking a weekend course in some kind of healing does not constitute the ability to take somebody through a healing process. It
Yeah.
just does not.
Yes.
Um, find somebody who has proper
Yes.
training, proper credentials, and proper experience to be able to guide you through what could be either the most incredible experience of your life or the
Yes.
flip side of that.
Yes, yeah, and if it doesn't feel good, I always tell women, trust your intuition. So even if you find a professional that you're working with, if it doesn't feel good, find someone else. Don't just stay because you've told your story. I have so many people that say that. Find the right person.
Yeah. So that was like, a wisdom encyclopedia. Okay, everybody, connect with Dr. Cynthia. Um, follow along on her journey because she's just getting started.
Yeah, I am.
Cheer her on. There's going to be days she needs it. And thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing
Thank
your
you.
story because I know you're still in a vulnerable place, and that means more than anything.
Okay. Thank you, Donna. I appreciate being here.
And everybody come back next week. We've got a panel on Tuesday on storytelling, and Wednesday we have another interview, and we've got interviews booked all the way into March at this point.
It's exciting.
Right. Thank you. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. We will be back. If you're watching on the replay, you've got comments, questions, just tag us. We will come back and we'll answer them and we'll keep the conversation going. See y'all soon.